Captain Jake Morrison walked across the bridge of the spaceship UES Horizon. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as he moved toward the big window that showed the stars outside. He had been in space for 2 years now, but the view still made him feel small and amazed. "Captain, you need to see this," said Lisa Rodriguez from her seat at the communications desk. Her voice was tight with excitement and fear. She was the best person on the ship for talking to other worlds, but she had never seen anything like what was showing up on her screens. Jake turned around and walked over to her. "What is it, Lisa?" "There's something out there." "Something big?" "Really big." She pointed to the main screen at the front of the bridge. "Look." Jake looked up at the screen and felt his mouth fall open. In the darkness of space, a huge structure was floating. It was made of what looked like crystal, but crystal that glowed with blue light. The structure was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It was bigger than their space stations, bigger than their cities, bigger than some of their mountains. "How big is it?" Jake asked. "The computer says it's about 5,000 kilometers long," said Dr. Nathan Cole, the ship's science officer. He was a thin man with gray hair who always seemed excited about new discoveries. "That's bigger than most planets are wide." Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was what they had come out here to find. The UES Horizon was an exploration ship, sent out to look for signs of other life in the galaxy. For 3 months, they had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. Now they had found something that was clearly not made by humans. "Is it sending out any signals?" Jake asked. Lisa nodded. "That's the strange part. It's sending out a signal, but not like any we've ever heard before. The computer can't figure out what it means." Commander Helen Price, Jake's second in command, came over to join them. She was a tall woman with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Could it be dangerous?" she asked. "I don't know," Jake said. "But we're going to find out. Lisa, keep trying to understand that signal. Nathan, I want you to scan that thing with every instrument we have. Helen, get the crew ready for anything." For the next 2 hours, they studied the crystal structure. It was clearly very older than anything they had ever seen. The materials it was made from didn't match anything in their database. The energy coming from it was strange and powerful. "Captain," Lisa said suddenly, "the signal is changing. It's getting stronger." "What kind of change?" Jake asked. "It's like it knows we're here, like it's trying to talk to us." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Can you understand any of it?" "The computer is working on it. Wait, Lisa's eyes went wide. "Captain, I think we're getting a translation." The main screen flickered and then words appeared in English. Simple, clear words that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. "Children of Terra, we have waited 7 million years for your return. Please come home." Jake stared at the words. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. 7 million years, he said out loud. "That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for about 100 years. The signal is getting stronger," Lisa reported. "There's more coming through." New words appeared on the screen. "You carry the genetic memory of the ancients, young ones. You are the last of the Cedars, and we are your guardians." "We have much to show you," Nathan was shaking his head. "This doesn't make sense. Humans evolved on Earth. We know our history. We've never been out here before. But what if we're wrong?" Helen said quietly, "What if there's something about human history that we don't know?" Jake looked around at his crew. They were all scared, but they were also excited. This was the biggest discovery in human history, and they were the ones making it. "Lisa, send a response," Jake said. "Tell them we're humans from Earth and we want to learn more." Lisa typed on her keyboard for a moment, then looked up. "Message sent, Captain." They didn't have to wait long. The response came back in less than a minute. "We know what you are, children. We have watched your world for millions of years. We watched you grow from simple creatures to the builders of stars. You are exactly what we hoped you would become." Jake felt his legs go weak. He sat down in his captain's chair and tried to think. "They've been watching us for millions of years? How is that possible?" "Captain," Nathan said, looking at his instruments. The structure is moving. It's coming toward us. How fast? Jake asked. Not fast. It's being careful. Like it doesn't want to scare us. Jake stood up. All right, everyone. This is it. We're about to make contact with beings that are older than our entire species. Helen, make sure all crew members are at their stations. Nathan, keep scanning. Lisa, keep the communication line open. Sir, Lisa said, there's another message coming in. The screen showed new words. Do not be afraid, young ones. We mean you no harm. We have been waiting for this day since before your son was born. You are our greatest hope and our greatest joy. Jake felt tears in his eyes. He didn't know why, but something about these words made him feel like he was coming. Home after a long journey. They're calling us their children, Helen said softly. How can that be? I don't know, Jake said. But we're going to find out. The crystal structure was getting closer now. Jake could see details on its surface. It was covered in patterns that looked like writing, but writing made of light instead of marks on paper. The patterns moved and changed as he watched. Captain, Nathan said, I'm reading life signs from inside that structure, lots of them. But they're not like any life signs I've ever seen before. What do you mean? Jake asked. They're old, sir. Really old? Some of these readings suggest that whatever is inside has been alive for millions of years. Jake felt his mind struggling to understand. Millions of years. That was longer than humans had existed as a species. These beings had been alive since before the first humans walked on Earth. New message coming in, Lisa announced. The screen showed. We know you have many questions, young ones. We will answer them all, but first we must meet face to face. We have prepared a place for you on our ship. Will you come? Jake looked around at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for his decision. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity. They could turn around and go back to Earth reporting what they had found. Or they could go forward and learn the truth about things they had never imagined. Send a message back, Jake said. Tell them we'll come. Lisa typed the message and sent it. The response came back immediately. We are joyful, children. Prepare your small ship. We will guide you to us. Welcome home. Jake stood up and looked out at the crystal structure that was now filling their view. Whatever was about to happen, he knew that nothing would ever be the same. Humanity was about to learn that they were not alone in the universe and that their story was much bigger and older than they had ever dreamed. All right, everyone, Jake said. Let's go meet our family. The shuttle bay of the crystal ship was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Jake Morrison stepped out of their small transport ship and looked around in wonder. The walls were made of the same glowing crystal as the outside, but here the light was softer, more welcoming. The air smelled clean and fresh like a forest after rain. Stay close together, Jake told his crew. Lisa Rodriguez, Dr. Nathan Cole, and Commander Helen Price followed him as they walked across the smooth floor. Their footsteps echoed in the huge space, making them feel very small. Captain, Nathan whispered, the atmosphere is perfect for humans. How did they know exactly what we need to breathe? Before Jake could answer, a figure appeared at the far end of the bay. It was tall, much taller than any human, and it seemed to be made of both light and solid matter at the same time. As it walked toward them, its form shifted and changed like water flowing in the shape of a person. Welcome, children of Terra, the being said, but its voice didn't come from its mouth. Instead, the words appeared directly in their minds, warm and gentle. I am Keeper Vaelth. I have waited so long to meet you. Jake felt his heart racing, but not from fear. There was something about this being that made him feel safe, like being near a kind parent. We're honored to meet you, he said. We have so many questions. Keeper Vaelth made a sound that might have been laughter. Of course you do. Come, let me show you our home, and I will tell you everything. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls showed moving pictures of stars and planets, galaxies spinning slowly in space. Some of the pictures showed worlds full of life, with strange creatures and beautiful cities. Others showed empty space where nothing lived. Your species has many names for us, Velth explained as they walked. Some of your stories call us angels, others call us the Ancient Ones. But the name that fits us best is the one your scientists use. We are the gardeners. Gardeners? Helen asked. Like people who grow plants? Yes, but we grow much more than plants. We grow life itself. We have been caring for this galaxy for millions of years, helping young species learn and grow, protecting them from dangers they cannot yet understand. They entered a vast room filled with strange machines and glowing screens. Lieutenant Paul Martinez, who had joined them from the shuttle, stared at everything with wide eyes. He was the team's historian, and he had studied every story humans had about ancient civilizations. This is incredible, Paul said. Some of these symbols look like things from Earth's oldest stories. The patterns are similar to cave paintings we've found that are thousands of years old. Velth's form brightened, which Jake was beginning to understand meant the being was pleased. You have good eyes, young historian. Those symbols are indeed from your world. We left them there long ago, hoping that one day you would remember. Nathan pulled out his scanner and began taking readings. The energy signatures here are amazing. This technology is more advanced than anything we ever imagined possible. It should be, Vale said. We have had millions of years to perfect it, but now let me show you something that will help you understand why you are here. Velth led them to a room filled with what looked like living computers. The machines were made of crystal and metal, but they pulsed with a rhythm like heartbeats. In the center of the room was a chair that seemed to be made of pure light. This is our memory keeper, Velth explained. It holds the history of everything we have done in this galaxy. Nathan, would you be willing to give us a small sample of your blood? Nathan looked nervous. What will you do with it? We will show you the truth about your species, about where you really came from. Jake nodded to Nathan, who carefully pricked his finger and let a drop of blood fall onto a crystal plate. The machines in the room began to hum and glow brighter. The results will take a moment, Velth said. While we wait, let me tell you a story. Long ago, when this galaxy was young, there were many species like us. We were old and wise, and we had learned to travel between the stars. We could have lived forever, but we saw that the galaxy was mostly empty. There was life, but not much of it, and it was scattered and alone. Lisa leaned forward. So you decided to help? We decided to become gardeners. We found worlds where life was just beginning, and we helped it grow. We protected young species from disasters. We taught them about the stars. And sometimes when we found a species that was very special, we did something more. The machine stopped humming. Velth moved to the crystal plate and studied it. When he looked up, his form was brighter than ever. The tests are complete. He said, Nathan, your blood contains something that no other species in the galaxy has. You have our genetic markers, but changed and improved. You are not just another species that we helped. You are our children. Jake felt the room spinning around him. What do you mean? Long ago, we visited your world when it was young. We found early humans barely more than animals, but we saw something special in them. They were curious. They were kind to each other. They created beautiful things not because they had to, but because they wanted to. So we did something we had never done before. Velth moved to stand in front of them. We changed your ancestors. We gave them some of our genetic material, but we also gave them something else. We gave them the ability to create, to build, to dream of things that had never existed before. We made you to be the next gardeners. Paul was shaking his head. But why? Why choose humans? Because you are different from us, Velth explained. We are old and wise, but we have lost something over the millions of years. We have forgotten how to feel wonder. We have forgotten how to be surprised. You still have that gift. You still look at the stars and dream of reaching them. Nathan was staring at his scanner. According to these readings, there are genetic sequences in human DNA that shouldn't exist. They're too complex, too perfect. Scientists on Earth have always wondered about them. Now you know, Velth said. Those sequences are our gift to you. They will help you understand our technology. They will help you communicate with the other species in the galaxy. And most importantly, they will help you become the gardeners that this galaxy needs. Helen stepped forward. What happened to the other species you mentioned, the ones like you? Vale's form dimmed slightly. Most of them grew tired of physical existence. They became pure energy and joined with the cosmos. Others chose to sleep until the end of time. A few became one with the space between stars. But we chose to wait. We chose to wait for our children to grow up and join us. Jake felt tears in his eyes. You've been waiting for us all this time? 7 million years, Velth confirmed. We have watched your species grow from simple hunters to builders of machines that can travel between stars. We have seen you make mistakes, but we have also seen you learn from them. We have seen you care for those who are weak, fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, and dream of a better future for your children. Lisa wiped tears from her face. So what happens now? Now you learn, Velth said. You learn to use the gifts we gave you. You learn to understand the technology that is your inheritance. And when you are ready, you take our place as the gardeners of this galaxy. The room filled with a warm, golden light. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same emotion in their faces that he felt in his heart. They were home. After millions of years of waiting, they were finally home. There is so much to show you, Velth said. So much to teach you. But first, let me introduce you to the others. There are many of us here, and we have all been waiting to meet our children. Jake straightened his shoulders. We're ready to learn. Good, Velth said. Let us begin your education. You have a galaxy to inherit. 3 days had passed since the humans learned they were the children of the gardeners. Jake Morrison and his crew had seen wonders beyond their imagination. They had walked through libraries that contained the knowledge of 1,000,000 worlds. They had seen machines that could create planets and reshape stars. But now, Keeper Velth had brought them to a room that was different from all the others. The room was completely empty except for a single chair in the center. The chair was made of the same crystal as everything else on the ship, but it pulsed with a deeper, more serious light. This is where we test you, Velth explained to the gathered humans. Being our children is not enough. You must prove that you are ready to be gardeners. Jake looked around at his crew. Lisa Rodriguez stood next to him, her face calm but her hands shaking slightly. Dr. Nathan Cole was studying the chair with scientific curiosity. Commander Helen Price looked ready for anything, as always. Lieutenant Paul Martinez was taking notes, trying to record everything they experienced. What kind of test? Jake asked. You will be given control of a section of the galaxy, Velth said. It will not be real, but it will feel real. You will face the same challenges that we have faced for millions of years. You will have to make decisions that affect the lives of billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Jake felt his heart start beating faster. What if we make the wrong choice? There are no wrong choices, Velth said gently. There are only choices that show us who you really are. Are you ready to begin? Jake looked at his crew again. They all nodded. We're ready. The room around them disappeared. Suddenly, Jake found himself standing in what looked like a control room on a space station. Through the windows, he could see dozens of star systems spread out before him. Each system had planets, and many of those planets had life. Welcome to Sector 7, eh? Voice said in his mind. It was not Velth's voice, but something that sounded like a computer. You are now responsible for 47 star systems, containing 112 worlds with intelligent life. Your mission is to guide and protect these civilizations. Jake looked around and saw that his crew was with him. They were all standing at control stations that showed different star systems. Captain, Lisa called out, I'm seeing a problem in the Kepler system. There's a planet here with a young civilization, but their sun is about to die. They don't have the technology to save themselves. Jake moved to her station and looked at the display. He could see a world covered in cities and farmland. The beings there looked somewhat like humans, but with blue skin and 4 arms. They were building machines and creating art, raising families, and exploring their world. In just a few years, Their sun would explode and kill them all. What are our options? Jake asked. We could give them technology to escape their planet, Lisa said. Or we could stabilize their sun. Or we could move them to another world. Each choice has consequences, the computer voice explained. Giving them technology too early might make them dangerous to other species. Stabilizing their sun requires enormous energy that could be used to help other worlds. Moving them might destroy their culture and way of life. Jake stared at the display. These were not just numbers or pictures. These were real people with real lives, even if this was just a test. What do you think, Lisa? I think we should give them the technology, she said. But slowly so they can learn to use it safely. Before Jake could respond, Nathan called out from his station. Captain, we have another problem. There's a plague spreading through the Andromeda colonies. It's already killed millions of beings, and it's spreading to other worlds. Jake ran to Nathan's station. The display showed a map of connected worlds, with red dots spreading like fire across the galaxy. How bad is it? If we don't stop it soon, it will reach 40 different worlds and kill billions of people, Nathan said. But the cure requires a rare mineral that we can only get from one place. Where? The same place where we would get the energy to save the sun in the Kepler system. Jake felt his stomach drop. They couldn't do both. If they saved the sun, they couldn't stop the plague. If they stopped the plague, they couldn't save the civilization from their dying sun. Captain, Helen called from another station. We have a third problem. There's a war starting between two species in the Vega system. Both sides are asking for our help, but they're asking us to help them destroy each other. Jake looked around. The room, his crew was looking at him, waiting for his decisions. The weight of billions of lives rested on his shoulders. How much time do we have? Jake asked. For the sun, 2 hours before it becomes unstable, the computer said. For the plague, 1 hour before it spreads too far to stop. For the war, 30 minutes before both sides launch weapons that will destroy their worlds. Jake closed his eyes and tried to think. This was impossible. There was no way to save everyone? But that was the point of the test, wasn't it? To see what they would do when faced with impossible choices. All right, Jake said. Helen, I need you to contact both sides in the war. Tell them we won't help either side destroy the other, but we will help them find a way to make peace. What if they refuse? Helen asked. Then we'll stop both sides from fighting, Jake said. We can't let them destroy themselves. Helen nodded and began working at her station. Nathan, Jake continued, start working on the plague cure. But I want you to also look for alternative sources of that mineral. There has to be another way. I'll try, Captain, but the computers say there's only one source. The computers might be wrong, Jake said. Or maybe we can create what we need, instead of finding it. Nathan began typing rapidly at his station. Lisa, start preparing to give the blue-skinned people the technology they need to save themselves. But we're going to do it differently. Instead of giving them the technology, we're going to teach them how to discover it themselves. How? Lisa asked. By giving them small hints and clues. We'll guide their scientists to the right discoveries, but we'll let them make the discoveries themselves. That way, they'll understand the technology and be able to use it safely, Lisa smiled. That's brilliant, Captain. For the next hour, Jake watched his crew work. Helen managed to get the two warring species to agree to a temporary ceasefire. She convinced them to meet and talk instead of fighting. Nathan found a way to create the mineral they needed for the plague cure using materials from asteroids. Lisa began sending subtle signals to the blue-skinned people scientists, helping them discover the physics they needed to save their sun, but there were new problems. Other worlds faced disasters. Space pirates attacked peaceful traders. A young species discovered nuclear weapons and was about to destroy themselves. Each problem required attention, and there were never enough resources to solve everything at once. Captain, Paul said, I'm seeing patterns in the data. A lot of these problems are connected. The space pirates are working for someone. The war in the Vega system was started by outside interference. Even the plague might not be natural. Jake looked at the displays with new eyes. You're right. Someone is causing these problems on purpose. But who? Unknown, the computer said. But your responses to these challenges have been most interesting. As the test continued, Jake realized that being a gardener wasn't just about having the power to help people. It was about understanding that every choice had consequences, that every action affected other actions, and that sometimes the best way to help was to let people find their own solutions. When the test finally ended, they were back in the empty room with Valve. The gardener's form was brighter than Jake had ever seen it. You have passed the test, Valve said. Not because you solved every problem, but because you understood that your job is not to solve every problem. Your job is to help others solve their own problems. Jake felt exhausted but proud. What happens now? Now you learn to use the tools of gardening. You learn to tend the galaxy as we have tended it. You learn to be the guardians that the universe needs. Valeth paused, and Jake could feel the ancient being's satisfaction. Welcome to your inheritance, young gardeners. The galaxy is yours to tend. The test room faded away, and Jake Morrison found himself standing in a corridor that seemed to stretch forever in both directions. The walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with soft, warm light. Keeper Valeth floated beside him, his form more solid than Jake had ever seen it before. Come, Valeth said, his mental voice filled with excitement. It is time to show you your true inheritance. Jake's crew followed as they walked through the corridor. Lisa Rodriguez looked around in wonder at the patterns of light that danced across the walls. Dr. Nathan Cole held his scanner. But the readings were so far beyond anything he understood that he had given up trying to make sense of them. Commander. Helen Price and Lieutenant Paul Martinez stayed close together, both of them trying to take in everything they were seeing. Where are we going? Jake asked. To the heart of our ship, Valeth replied. To the place where we keep everything we have learned in 7 million years of watching over this galaxy. They passed through several more corridors, each one more beautiful than the last. Some walls showed moving pictures of distant worlds. Others displayed what looked like mathematical equations, but written in symbols that seemed to shift and change as Jake watched them. The air itself seemed to hum with power and knowledge. Finally, they came to a massive door that was made of pure white crystal. It was so bright that Jake had to squint to look at it. The door had no handle or keypad, but as they approached, it slowly opened by itself. Welcome, Valeth said, to the archives of infinity. Jake stepped through the door and gasped. The room beyond was enormous, so large that he couldn't see the walls or ceiling. Floating in the air were thousands of crystal structures, each one glowing with different colors. Some were as small as his hand, others were as big as buildings. They moved slowly through the air like fish swimming in an ocean of light. What are they? Jake asked. Knowledge, Valeth explained. Each crystal contains the complete history of a world, or the solution to a scientific problem, or the story of an entire species. Everything we have learned, everything we have discovered, everything we have created is stored here. Nathan stepped forward, his eyes wide with amazement. This is incredible. There must be millions of years of scientific advancement here. 7 million years, Valeth corrected. And now it belongs to you, Lisa shook her head. But we don't know how to use any of this. We're just starting to understand space travel. How can we possibly handle this level of technology? Valeth's form brightened, which Jake now knew meant the ancient being was pleased. That is the beauty of what we did to your ancestors. We didn't just change your bodies, we changed your minds. You already know how to use this technology, you just haven't realized it yet. Jake looked around at the floating crystals. What? Do you mean, touch one? Valeth said. Anyone, let your instincts guide you. Jake reached out toward a small blue crystal that was floating nearby. The moment his fingers touched it, the crystal began to glow brighter. Suddenly, Jake's mind was filled with images and knowledge. He saw how to build machines that could travel faster than light. He understood the mathematics of bending space and time. He knew how to create energy from nothing and how to heal diseases that had no cure. This is amazing, Jake said, his voice filled with wonder. I can understand. All of this. It's like remembering something I had forgotten. Exactly, Vel said. The knowledge was always there, waiting for you to access it. This is part of your genetic inheritance from us. Helen reached out and touched a red crystal. Her eyes went wide. I can see battle strategies for protecting entire star systems. I know how to build weapons that can stop armies without killing anyone. I understand how to make peace between species that have been at war for thousands of years. Paul touched a green crystal and suddenly understood the history of the galaxy. He could see how life had spread from world to world, how civilizations had risen and fallen, how the gardeners had guided and protected countless species over millions of years. This is our job now, Paul said softly. We're going to be responsible for all of this. Nathan had found a crystal that taught him about advanced medicine. I can see how to cure diseases that don't even exist yet. I know how to extend human life, how to help people live for thousands of years if they want to. Lisa touched a crystal that showed her how to communicate with any species in the galaxy. I can understand languages that haven't been spoken in millions of years. I know how to talk to beings made of energy or creatures that live in the cores of stars. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all glowing slightly, their bodies adapting to the new knowledge they were receiving. Are we still human? He asked. You are more human than you have ever been, Vailth replied. You are what humans were always meant to become. This is why we chose your species. You have the curiosity to learn, the wisdom to use knowledge responsibly, and the compassion to care for others. Jake walked deeper into the archives, touching more crystals. Each one filled his mind with new understanding. He learned how to create new worlds, how to move stars, how to build civilizations that would last for millions of years. But with each new piece of knowledge, he also felt the weight of responsibility. This is overwhelming, Jake said. How? Do we know we're ready for this? Because you passed the test, Vailth replied. You showed us that you understand what it means to be a gardener. You don't just solve problems with power. You help others solve their own problems. You guide without controlling. You protect without smothering. Helen looked up from the crystal she was studying. What happened to the other species you helped? The ones who came before us? Most of them are still out there, Vailth said. Some have grown beyond the need for gardeners. Others have become gardeners themselves, helping species that are younger than they are. A few have joined us as gardeners working to tend the galaxy. Will we meet them? Lisa asked. In time, Vailth replied. But first you need to learn how to use your new abilities. You need to understand what it means to be responsible for the welfare of entire worlds. Jake touched another crystal, this one silver and shaped like a star. Suddenly he could see the entire galaxy as if he were looking at a map. He could see every world, every species, every potential problem and opportunity. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. There are so many worlds, Jake said. So many species that need help. Yes, Vailth agreed. And now you have the tools to help them. But remember what you learned in the test. Sometimes the best help is to let people find their own way. Nathan looked up from a crystal that taught him about energy manipulation. What about Earth? What about the rest of humanity? They will learn, Vailth said. You will teach them, slowly and carefully. Not everyone needs to know everything at once. Some humans will become gardeners like you. Others will become explorers or builders or teachers. Each person will find their own path. Jake felt a sense of purpose filling him. This was bigger than anything he had ever imagined, but it felt right. It felt like coming home. When do we start? Jake asked. You have already started, Vailth replied. The moment you accepted your inheritance, you became gardeners. Now you must learn to tend the galaxy with wisdom and compassion. Jake looked around at his crew. They were no longer just explorers from Earth. They were the inheritors of a 7-million-year legacy, the guardians of countless worlds, the protectors of life itself. We're ready, Jake said. Good, Vailth replied. Let us begin your education in earnest. You have a galaxy to inherit and eternity to learn how to care for it. The crystals around them pulsed with brighter light, and Jake felt the knowledge of ages flowing into his mind. He was no longer just human. He was something more, something that had been waiting 7 million years to be born. He was a gardener, and the galaxy was his garden. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison and his crew had first met the gardeners. Now, as their ship UES Horizon approached Earth, Jake felt like a completely different person. The knowledge he had gained from the archives of infinity flowed through his mind like a river of light. He could see the solar system in ways no human had ever seen it before. "There it is," said Lisa Rodriguez, pointing at the blue and white marble that hung in the darkness ahead of them. Home. But Earth didn't look the same to Jake anymore. He could see the energy patterns around the planet, the way life pulsed and moved across its surface. He could sense the 7 billion humans living their lives, completely unaware that their children had just inherited the greatest responsibility in the galaxy. "How do we tell them?" asked Dr. Nathan Cole. He was holding a small crystal device that contained enough knowledge to advance human science by 1,000 years. "How do we explain that we're not just explorers anymore?" Commander Helen Price. "Check the navigation systems. We start slowly. We tell the truth, but we don't tell all of it at once. People need time to understand." Lieutenant Paul Martinez was writing in his journal, trying to record everything they had experienced. "The history books will never be the same. Everything we thought we knew about human origins is wrong." Jake looked out at Earth and felt both joy and sadness. Joy because he was coming home. Sadness because he knew that life would never be simple again. Humanity was about to learn that they were part of something much bigger than they had ever imagined. "Open a channel to Earth Command," Jake ordered. Lisa worked at her controls. "Channel open, Captain." "Earth Command, this is Captain Morrison of the UES Horizon. We are returning from our mission with important discoveries. Request permission to land." The voice that came back was familiar. It was Admiral Kate Thompson, the head of Earth's Space Exploration Program. "UES Horizon, this is Earth Command." "Permission granted? We're all eager to hear your report," Jake smiled. If only she knew what kind of report they were about to give. 3 hours later, Jake stood in the main briefing room at Earth Command headquarters. The room was filled with the most important people on Earth: scientists, government leaders, military officers, and representatives from every major country sat waiting to hear what the crew of the Horizon had discovered. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake began, "what I'm about to tell you will change everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the universe." He told them about the crystal ship, about meeting Keeper Vailth, about learning that humans were genetically connected to beings who had lived for millions of years. He told them about the test, about the archives of infinity, about the responsibility that had been passed to humanity. The room was completely silent when he finished. Finally, Dr. Maria Santos, Earth's leading geneticist, spoke up. "You're saying that human DNA was artificially modified millions of years ago?" "Yes," Nathan replied, "and I have the proof." He showed them the genetic analysis that the gardeners had performed. "These sequences in our DNA are not natural. They're too complex, too perfect. They've been there all along, waiting for us to understand what they mean." General Robert Hayes, head of Earth's military, leaned forward. "And these gardeners want us to take over their job of protecting the galaxy?" "Not take over," Jake corrected. "Inherit. They've been waiting for us to grow up, to become ready for this responsibility. They're not leaving. They're passing the torch to the next generation." President Sarah Williams, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke. "This is a lot to process. You're asking us to believe that humanity has a cosmic destiny." "I'm not asking you to believe anything," Jake replied. "I'm telling you what we discovered, but I understand if you need proof." Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out a small crystal, one that Vailth had given him as a gift for Earth. "This contains the blueprints for clean energy technology that could power our entire planet for 1,000 years without any pollution. It also contains the cure for cancer, the common cold, and aging itself." Dr. Santos gasped. "You're serious?" "Completely serious," Jake said. "This is just the beginning. The gardeners have given us access to 7 million years of accumulated knowledge. We can end poverty, disease, and war. We can travel to the stars and meet other species. We can become the protectors of life throughout the galaxy. The room erupted in excited conversations. Everyone was talking at once, asking questions, making plans. Jake waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "But there's a condition," he said. "We can't use this knowledge just for ourselves. We have to use it to help others. We have to become gardeners in the truest sense of the word." Admiral Thompson stood up. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means we have to think bigger than just Earth," Helen explained. "There are thousands of worlds out there with intelligent life. Some of them are facing disasters that will destroy them. Others are just beginning to explore space. Our job is to help them, guide them, protect them." Paul opened his journal and read from it. "The gardeners have been doing this for millions of years. They've helped countless species survive and grow. Now it's our turn to carry on that tradition." President Williams looked around the room. "How do we know we're ready for this kind of responsibility?" "Because we care," Jake said simply. "Because when we were tested, we didn't just try to solve problems with power. We tried to help others solve their own problems. We showed compassion, wisdom, and creativity. That's what makes U.S. worthy of this inheritance." Dr. Santos was examining the crystal Jake had given her. "The technology in here is incredible. If this is real, it could change everything." "It's real," Nathan assured her. "I've seen the archives. I've touched the crystals. I've felt the knowledge flow into my mind. It's all real." General Hayes asked. The question that everyone was thinking: what happens now? Jake looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. "Now we begin the greatest adventure in human history. We build ships that can travel between stars. We establish contact with other species. We start our work as gardeners of the galaxy." "And, if we're not ready?" President Williams asked. "Then we learn," Jake replied. "The gardeners didn't become wise overnight. They had millions of years to grow into their role. We'll have time too, but we have to start somewhere." Admiral Thompson nodded slowly. "I think we should proceed carefully. Start small, build up our capabilities, learn as we go." "Agreed," Jake said, "but we should also start immediately. There are worlds out there that need our help right now." Over the next several weeks, Jake and his crew worked with Earth's leaders to plan humanity's new role in the galaxy. They established the Gardener Corps, a new organization dedicated to protecting and nurturing life throughout the cosmos. They began construction of humanity's first true starships, vessels that could travel between galaxies in days. Instead of centuries. Lisa became the head of the new Galactic Communications Department, using her knowledge of alien languages to establish contact with other species. Nathan led the Medical Research Division, working to cure diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Helen took charge of the peacekeeping forces, training humans to resolve conflicts between different worlds. Paul became the chief historian, recording humanity's transition from a single-world species to guardians of the galaxy. Jake was chosen as the first director of the Gardener Corps. It was a job that would take him to the farthest reaches of space. But it was also the most important job in human history. 1 year after first meeting the gardeners, Jake stood on the bridge of humanity's first gardener ship, the UES Sanctuary. Through the view screen, he could see a distant star system where a young civilization was about to discover nuclear energy. His job was to guide them, to help them use this power safely, to ensure that they didn't destroy themselves as so many species had done before. "Ready for departure, Captain," Lisa reported from the communications station. "All systems green," Nathan added from the science station. "Course laid in," Helen said from the navigation station. Jake looked back at Earth one last time. It was still his home, but now his home was much bigger. His home was the entire galaxy, filled with countless worlds and species that needed protection and guidance. "Take us out," Jake ordered. The UES Sanctuary leaped into hyperspace, carrying humanity's first gardeners to their destiny among the stars. Behind them, Earth continued its journey around the sun, but the blue planet was no longer alone. It was part of a galactic community, and its children were the guardians of that community. The age of the gardeners had begun, and humanity was ready to tend the cosmic garden that had been entrusted to their care.